Hi, everyone. This is Product Fit, Airtime's podcast series with exceptional product builders telling behind-the-scenes stories. I'm Akash, the CEO of Airtime, a real-time research engagement platform. Airtime empowers product teams to make the right decisions, what to build and how, by providing dynamically curated user insights for your product decisions. Today, my guest is Kevin Hanna, co-founder and CTO of Stacked. Kevin, a pleasure to have you here. Pleasure to talk to you all the time. First thing, tell me a little bit about Stacked. What does it do?
Thank you, Akash, for the invite. So at Stacked, we help tech companies find and hire talent through the people that they know. And what it means is that we help tech companies find candidates through their employees and alumni network.
Okay, so if I wanted to take away and tell a friend, and I had to remember just one thing about Stacked, what's so cool about it, what's special, what is that? What would that one thing be?
Good question, but I say something else instead. So, as human beings and also as organizations, one of our biggest assets are our network, but we're not always leveraging that network. We're not putting our network to work, and when we are hiring, we are not really tapping into the full power of what a network can do. And this is where we come in place. We put your network to work and we help you as a company get to the right people through your existing networks.
Excellent, thanks. Now, let's dig into Stacked and let's dig into yourself a little bit because you're one of the founders. And what always interests me is what special skills and special background experiences people bring in their companies. So I'm interested about your professional superpower. Do you have one? And is it something that you can share with us?
A professional superpower. So I guess for me, if you see the title, I'm a CTO. I was an engineer, but I also done 5 years of product management. I've been a founding engineer also. So I've been through like the different journeys of a startup. And I think my superpower comes from like this hybrid between product, technology, also the artistic side. That's, I think, where my superpower comes in.
Okay, that's interesting. Can you give me an example, like a real life story when you could put like multiple hats on you and you saw the advantage of this background?
For sure. Like just today, I woke up, fixed the bug on our platform, released it. Then I went. So from an engineer, I switched my hat into a CTO. I was in a CTO's mastermind group where we discussed more high level strategies and things that we're going through. And now I'm talking to you from a product perspective, and we're talking about talking to users and making decisions on the product side. So just today, in the last couple of hours, I've switched hats 3 times.
Yeah, okay. You provided the perfect segue to my next topic. It was about making product decisions, right? That's also what interests me, and that's why I'm building Airtime. And what I'm interested in, Stacked is an early stage tech company. And for most of the tech companies, they need to make decisions and make important product decisions under uncertainty. And I'm curious if I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, at what level of uncertainty do you need to make product decisions in your daily life at Stacked?
It's an interesting discussion and question because, as you said, at this level in a startup, really early stage startups, the uncertainty is high. And as someone coming more from an engineering background, dealing with the whole uncertainty, it's an issue and it can get you to analysis paralysis. And you can say like, what should I do? So I can't give you a number, but it's like high levels of uncertainty. And the only way really early stage to overcome it is being more in contact with users, talking to your potential customers, to your existing customers, putting yourself in their shoes and really having these conversations. And I think that's the first way where you start to bridge this gap in uncertainty, in conversations with them, in discussions with them.
Okay. Could you give me an example, like a recent example, when you went through this journey that you had to make an important product decision, and how you like increased your confidence that you're making the right decision?
Yeah, let me think about it. So right now we are working on a new onboarding flow. In our product, you can go into our website and self-serve, pay, and use the product all by yourself. But we know we need to improve this onboarding experience. So before we make any decision on where we want to and how it needs to look or what we want to look, we're just talking to users, understanding more about the flow, but also how, like, who is paying for the software. So if they need to ask for a credit card from a manager, et cetera, et cetera. So again, we are in the process of going through more interviews to understand how to make the best onboarding process.
Okay, so if I if I understood you correctly, it's also an iterative process where while you make a decision, you're like constantly collecting data points from users, and you're refining your decision as you implement.
Yeah, and I'll say that that's the ideal state. That's where we want to be, where every week we are talking to potential users and doing customer interviews, like at least 3 times a week. The way we are kickstarting or we kickstarted this process is by doing like a full week, 2 weeks of customer interviews, with like our focus being specifically on that. But again, like that's how we are kickstarting it, and then we will transition into more weekly continuous interviews.
Excellent. I'd like to dig into a little bit about your user interviews, and I'm gonna share with our audience that I cheated a little bit, and I already heard from you that you had like an ingenious hack of how to get prepared for an interview, and how to ask the right questions from your users, how to come up with your questionnaire. Can you share your story about that?
Sure. And I'll tell you where it's coming from, and I'll share the story. But we had to plan for these customer interviews, and my mind was in 10 different places at the same time. And I knew the customer intake week was coming pretty close. And I love reading books, and I like all these best practices. I've read them, and I love them. But when it comes to, okay, let's sit down and write the interview questions that you're going to ask, or what's the script, what's the how we're going to start, it's easy to get it's easy to get your brain to freeze, like when you have a blank page. So I've used ChatGPT to come up with a perfect script, or an initial perfect script to get started. And the way I did so was pretty simple. With the prompt, I told ChatGPT my context, like I'm a startup founder, and this is what we do, and this is what, like, I need to do customer interviews. I give it my 2 goals, why I want to do, like, what do I want to gain from these customer interviews. So that's important. I start with the goals. And then I ask it, give me 10 interview questions in the style of The Mom Test Book by Rob Fitzpatrick. I'm a big fan.
Sweet.
And also,
yes.
Yeah. And also in the style of the Continuous Discovery Habits by Teresa Torres.
A classic.
Yeah. And then I also, I think I asked him, like, give me the 10 questions, and it gave me, but I didn't really like, I think that it was like more tuning to make. So I also asked, like, I gave it more guidance, like ask specific things in the past, non-generic, not opinions about the future, concrete, specific facts. What, like, I think this was the guidance. And I asked it to give me 10 more interview questions, and 10 more. I took them outside in a Google Doc and just rewrite some of them, delete some of them, and added more questions to it. And then I went one by one and ask it to rephrase it in a more conversational tone, so I won't sound like a robot. That was my process to get to the perfect initial draft for a customer interview.
Amazing, amazing. And then you went from a blank page to like 2 or 3 times iterated questionnaire within like how long? It took you like 30 minutes or
yeah,
or
or
an
even
hour?
less. Yeah, or even less.
Even less.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Talking about user sessions, by the way, I know it's like a very dynamic part of user research. That's where you have like the least control of like the user. They deviate a lot of times from discussions, but also you're like if you're a small team and you don't have a note taker with you, you're on your own and you're trying to capture relevant quotes from the user and to pay attention at the same time. It requires a lot of attention. So I'm curious if it like ever happened to you that you like took a misstep in an interview and you just said something where you like in your head you were saying, "Oh my God, how could I have done this?"
Yeah, like I can, yeah, I completely relate. What I'm doing is I'm recording the session so I get the transcript, and I have like a small notepad next to the window so I can write down like just one keyword or one phrase if I want to dig deeper into one of the things that they said. And I think it's in one of these parts where you get off script, where you want to dig deeper into something they said, when sometimes you can ask like a leading question, and only after you ask it, like you realize, like this is a leading question, and part of your brain says, okay, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm not really like I'm processing it, but I need to contain it because I know this is an opinion. This is not really
Yes.
like a fact. So yeah, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, and it a little bit also leads to the confirmation bias problem. You know? Like if you ask the question in a certain way, you hear what an opinion that confirms your own beliefs, which just doesn't really take you further
Yeah.
with the product. Yeah. That's a good example. Last thing I wanted to ask is zooming a little bit out from like the user conducting of user interview in general. What is it that you find most challenging when you do user research?
Cool. And I'll just say in the beginning, this is not a promotion for Airtime, but one of the like for real, this is not a promotion for Airtime, but one of our issues is getting like the scheduling, automatically scheduling the interviews with potential customers, even people that are not using our product, but people that we would want to talk to. This right now, I think next step for us would be to automate the whole
Recruitment.
process. Yeah, the recruitment of users. But this is one
Okay.
of our challenges right now.
Awesome. Kevin, thanks so much for sharing your insightful stories. We're at the end of our episode. It was a pleasure talking to you. I definitely want to have you like more and more times in this show. There's so much we could dig into. So let me reach out to you in the future. And I wish the best to you and to Stacked. And take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you. Would love to. Bye. Bye, Akash.
Bye bye.